Hi guys, I'm Alex from Ready Made RC. Today we're going to be looking at the FrSky Taranis QX7. We're going to do an unboxing and we're going to show you how to convert it to either mode 1 or mode 2, whichever is your personal preference. So I've already opened this box, but I'm going to show you what's in here so you can see for yourself. You get a manual, some decals. To be honest, I haven't read the manual. Then you have your fancy radio. This is the white version. It comes in white and in black. You also get a neck strap. And that's it. So I've had a day to play with this radio, and personally I really like it. It is comfortable. The back is kind of rubberized. The front is all hard plastic for the most part. Some people may not like that, but I like it. It has a rotary dial and navigation buttons over here, which is a little different than the QX or the X9D rather, which I think most people will compare this to. Other notable differences are this does not have the sliders on the side, and it is missing a couple switches, but the menu options are the same. We'll show you that in a minute. It does have the JR module port, so you can add a Spectrum or other type of module if you so wanted to do that. The biggest difference is that this radio runs on AA batteries by default, and they are not included. It is possible, once you open this radio up, to remove this tray, and any 2-cell LiPo battery that will physically fit in this bay will work just fine. But for now, we're just going to use it with some AA's. All right, so let's power this thing up. We just put in some AA's, and to turn it on, you just hold the power button for just a second or two, and then you'll see the menu fire up, and it'll give you a throttle warning to start, and that's because both of these sticks are centered by default from FrSky. You need to actually open the radio and change it to mode 1 or mode 2, and I'm going to show you how to do that here in a little bit. So if we bypass the throttle warning, it's going to give us a failsafe warning because we haven't set a failsafe yet. Once we bypass that, it takes us to the regular model menu, and I will show you how to navigate that, but it should look pretty familiar if you've used a Taranis radio before. I'm not going to go into depth on this menu. There's a lot of options, and the Taranis radio can be complicated depending on what you're trying to do. So I'm not going to show you all the functions, but there are a lot of YouTube help videos that are available for the X9D that should be applicable to this radio. All right, so let's look at the menus here on the QX7. If you've used a Taranis before, they should look pretty familiar, but the biggest differences are the scroll wheel on the right with a center click button, and then you have 3 buttons over here. You can scroll through the different display screens that show where your sticks are and the different values that you can program. And to access the model menus, we're going to click the center button on the left side. And then that will bring up your list of models that you can scroll through with the scroll wheel, and I really like that. I think it's easier than doing the up and down buttons on the X9D. To access the screens within the model, you just click the page button, and that will take you to the different pages and options that you can access through here. Going to the next page, you have your heli setup, flight modes, inputs, mixer, outputs, where you can invert the channels, and you have your curves, logical switches, special functions, telemetry, and display. Here is where you can pre-program the options that will show on the main screen. So if we exit out of here, that takes us back to the menu. So on the main screen here, you can see that it shows your trim values on the sliders, where your sticks are, and if we move the trim, you can see it gives you your graphical representation there. You have your model name, and you have a nice battery display showing your voltage and a graphical display of how much battery is left. To turn the radio off, you press and hold the center button until these icons show up on the screen. It takes about 3 seconds, and then it shuts off. Another notable thing is the headphone jack here. That might be useful if you are flying in a loud environment. So you would use that with headphones to alert you to like a flight timer or low battery telemetry signal or something like that. So the headphone jack is neat. There's another port on this side, and I'm actually not sure what it does. It probably could be used with a head tracker, but I'm not positive. On the bottom of the radio, we have this little rubber plug that we can remove, which gives access to a USB port, a SD card, and some other, I guess it looks like a servo plug, but I don't really know what you do with that, to be honest. But you do have SD card and USB support, presumably for updating in the future or adding models or things with the SD card. All right, so let's show you how to turn this radio into being a Mode 2 radio. I fly Mode 2, so that's what I'm going to show you how to do. Fortunately, FrSky did make this really easy. There are only 4 screws in the back that you have to remove to open up the case, and there are no clips or there's very little damage of opening it, risk of damage when you open it. There are 4 screws, 2 of them are accessible here, and the other 2 are accessible down here. So let's open this thing up with just a regular Phillips head screwdriver. All right, so we have the screws loosened. Now we can pretty easily just lift straight up on the case. There are no clips that hold the plastic together, but you will notice 2 wires here that are connecting the battery power supply to the circuit board. So this just pulls straight up towards the top of the radio and is easily removed. And we can set this aside. Everything that we need to do is in here. I'm going to set this radio up for Mode 2, which means the throttle's on the left, so that when you flip it open, or cut it open it up, we're going to be working on this gimbal here. The important things that need done are removing this spring, and then tightening either this screw or that screw, depending on if you like your throttle to ratchet or to be smooth. If you like your throttle to ratchet, you're going to tighten this screw here. You'll see on the wheel below it, it's actually serrated, so that will provide the ratcheting mechanism. And if you want your throttle to be smooth without any ratchets, then you're going to tighten this screw. So let's remove the spring. This will be best done with a small pair of tweezers or very, very small needle nose pliers if you have them. All you need to do is lift this spring up off of that little catch that it's on. We'll set that aside, and it will not be used, but it might be a good idea to save it if you ever want to sell your radio or put it back for some reason in the future. So after I remove the spring, you'll notice that the throttle flops around and is very loose, and so you would never want to fly like this because, well, you'd have very little throttle control, and if you ever let go, the throttle would kind of go nuts on its own. So that's why we're going to tighten one of these 2 screws. I'm most used to having a ratcheting throttle, so I'm going to tighten this screw here until this V engages those notches. All right, so it is just engaged, so I have a very light ratchet on my throttle now, and you'll notice that it stays wherever I leave it. If you would prefer your ratchets to be even more noticeable, you could tighten the screw a little farther, or if you don't want any, then you would not tighten this one, but instead tighten the other screw. All right, so to put the radio back together, we're just going to do the reverse of taking it apart. It's very simple. We are going to first plug in the battery connector. It only goes together one way, so you don't have to worry about reversing that. We'll gently put the case back on. Actually, it's very helpful to remove this JR cover and make sure that when you are putting it back together that you don't bend the pins that are inside of the JR module, or else it'll be very difficult to get them back perfectly straight and be usable again. So once the case is shut, we're just going to tighten the screws back. Put our cover back on. Close the battery door. We're done. Alright guys, so that wraps up our summary unboxing video of the FrSky QX7 and the brief tutorial on how to set up Mode 1 and Mode 2. If you are interested in this radio, we have them available at ReadyMadeRC.com.